in your folders and in attached emails, you should have gotten a document that says individual development plan. And so I am going to go really high level, and Ms. Gretchen is going to come and deep dive into development plans and what they are, the importance of them, and the importance of breaking down your goals into smart, actionable items. All right. So first, let's talk about what an IDP or individual development plan is. It is an essential planning tool that helps you identify your goals and objectives. Some people do it each year. Some people do them for further than a year. And so what this really is you try to identify what your vision is. What is it that you want to achieve? When you want to achieve them? What are the things that you need to do to achieve it? And then what are the action items to achieve each one of those? And so it is basically a plan. This is what I ultimately want to do. And these are all the things that I need to do leading up to it. So in order to do it, there's 3 steps that you have to do. First, you have to identify your goals. And so here are some examples of goals and what goals are. They're general statements about what you need to accomplish to achieve your broader, they say aspirations, but we can say vision. And some examples here are to present at your work at a conference, to expand your skills in communicating, your research to a diverse audience, and so on. And then once you have identified those goals, you break them down into actionable items. And your actionable items have to be what we call SMART goals. And so you have 2 sheets. You have this one that talks about your SMART goals. And there's another one that I just handed out that also talks about SMART goals. And Ms. Gretchen is going to come up and talk to you about that. And then next, the third thing that you do is to create a timeline. Because this timeline is, you have all these action items, but they need to be done by when? In 6 months, I need to come back and see where I am. What things have I accomplished? Am I on path to achieving that vision that I laid out? And so today what we're going to start doing is we have a draft plan here for you to look at. So on your second page, you have a draft plan that we're going to start to fill out. And today after lunch, we're going to start to put together our development plans. So we have 2, post-graduation. So once you graduate, what's your vision? Right? You graduated, you walked across the stage. What do you need to do? What do you want to do? Where do you want to work at? What do you want to do with yourself? We're going to start to work that out and see how we, as Sealy, you as individuals, what each one of us can do to get you to that vision. The next one is post-10th Institute, right? So when this year is over and you wrap your first year, second year of being in the 10th Institute program, where do you want to be? What is it, the vision that you have for yourself? What is it that you want to have accomplished so that we can all start working together to achieve that vision? And so that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to work on our vision and some of our high-level goals. And then each of you in your sessions with your coaches are going to start developing your objectives, your action plans, your due dates, and you're going to start to look at when are you going to really start to check how often, even monthly, every 2 months, every couple of weeks, when are we going to check to make sure that we are still on track to getting to our action items, right? So I'll let Ms. Gretchen come and teach us a little bit more about IDPs and SMART goals and putting together a development plan.
How many people have a development plan now
that you use for your personal use, that just
any kind of, so
Benicio,
is that a raised hand or loosely I have one? I was warning about the gesture.
Yeah, I have a lot of sketches for things like that.
Sure.
I don't have anything like extremely detailed, but I have a lot of.
Okay, awesome. So this will definitely be something you work with your mentor and your coach, right? So this is a foundation for us mapping out something that then we use to get you where your desired end place is, okay? And it's individual because it's about each one of you and where you're trying to go, right?
And one last thing I'll say is this really helps you. I know a lot of people, how many of you wake up in the middle of the night with a great idea and some of you may write it down on a sheet of paper, or everyone has done this. Like you've been riding a train in a car, you have this really great idea about, ooh, I want to do this, ooh, I want to do that. This individual development plan helps you track your progress. It gets you to actually where you want to go. So putting all your thoughts into this vision, and then what are the things that I need to do to achieve it? It
keeps
really
me
helps
up
you
at
go.
night. It keeps me up at night.
This is gonna help you work through all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, Evangelist Gretchen.
One other key point, Karia and I were talking about this, last week or so, about the work he's having with his mentor. You will have things coming at you as opportunities, right? If you don't know where you're trying to go, all of those may seem like they're great, but they're not, right? It's another way of being clear about where you're trying to go, so that when those opportunities present themselves, you have an idea of saying yes or no to them, right? Just taking anything is what we're trying to break through, of being purposeful with you about opportunities, so that you are looking at opportunities that are on your desired path, not just any kind of opportunity that comes to you, right?
All right, we're going to go through the SMART goals, and I'm going to introduce something called SMARTer goals to you as we go through, because it's an agile way of doing things. So I'll give you some examples as we go through. You have the example sheet in front of you. I pulled this upscale my network to include 2 new external mentors, and then caliber connections and 1 internal sponsor. I found that last night and I was like, wow, this is something that we're actually talking about today, is kind of making sure that we have our mentors in place, being purposeful about asking them to be your mentor, because then they feel comfortable being honest with you. So if we have to search them out for you, sometimes that connection may not happen because they won't want to offend you. But if you are reaching out to someone and say, hey, would you mentor me? This is what I hope to do in the future. This is what I plan to be. And then tell them, I want you to be honest with me. Tell me when you see a personality trait that maybe I'm not recognizing. And then with Curie, then what does the future look like in my field for me? So I can make some decisions now that can impact that in the future. So we're going to go through your individual development plan document. I just want to say there's an old adage that says failing to plan is planning to fail. So this is our opportunity to kind of write some things down, let you sleep at night, because I do that. I'm like, oh, let me just write it down, and then I can forget about it. Or I'll put it in the bathroom to remind me to do something, that next day, and then I don't have to think about it all night long. So in the individual plan, identifying your goals, so we're going to kind of go through the document here. Goals are general statements about what you need to accomplish in order to achieve your broader aspirations. Examples are to present your work at a conference, to expand your skills in communicating your research to diverse audiences, or something like broadening your job search to careers in industry. As I said, you're actually going to go through an IDP on that worksheet, and it's post-graduation for academia, right? But you can never leave, we've already talked about that, the 10th Institute, so I say post-10th Institute graduation, because you'll be then asked to kind of come back and mentor and share, what you've learned through the program. And you'll know, Kevin has given some examples, what we can do better in the future to kind of encourage people. What did you kind of say, that could have been done a little bit better. We need that feedback to make this group better for the next people coming through. So you'll have an opportunity to do that as well. So breaking down your goals. It's important to break down your goals into individual objectives and actions so that you can get a sense of all the activities you will need to complete in order to achieve your goals and ensure that your goals are SMART. That's where this comes from, right? So we're using it here today, but in every company that you work for, they will probably use this same objective, this SMART or SMARTer goals. So we'll go through each individual one. I'm going to give you some examples that I pulled for you because you know Trent says I'm extra, so here's my extra, y'all. I got to have handouts and all that kind of, I don't know, what was it in grade school where you had to like show and tell, right? I love show and tell. That was my favorite to do until I tried to bring my dog to school and he wasn't really potty trained. So, all right. So the first one, specific. Use action verbs to write a clear definition of what you want to accomplish. Think about the who, the what, and the where. And those action verbs can sound like this. And you may want to take some notes because when you start to write on this worksheet, you'll want to pull from it. So I always say beg, borrow, and ask for permission to use. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here if you can find things already kind of put together and you're like, oh yeah, I dig it. That actually sounds like me. So some action verbs then. So you got concrete, detailed, focused, it's action oriented, it's well defined, straightforward. Think about the action verbs that are kind of like around that. So being specific, it sounds like this. What am I going to do? You're developing something, you're executing something, you're conducting something, you're building something. Why is it important to do this task? Why is it important to you to do this task? Who is going to be involved? Is this you and your mentor? This you and your sponsor, a teacher, a family member? You can use SMART goals for anything in your life. When do I want this task to be completed? To start thinking about that. Is this an immediate task this week, this month, this year, 6 months from now, 5 years from now? And then how am I going to do this task? How are you going to get it done? On your example, under SMART, and we're doing specific, so SMART is S-M-A-R-T here, so on the left side you'll see specific. What exactly do you plan to accomplish? And the goal assessment, for example, says 2 external mentor or collaboration connections and 1 internal sponsors is precise. So you're numbering specifically what you're looking for. All right, the IDP, measurable. How will you evaluate whether the goal has been met? Set criteria that are measurable so that you can chart your progress. And I'll say an agile methodology way here is to allow for course corrections. So you may set a goal and then see that some part of it just needs to be a little bit different than what you originally said. It's your goal. It's your assessment. So if you need to make a course correction, don't be afraid to do that along the way. Here's some questions for you under measurable. How will I know when this objective has been achieved? What measurements can be used, or can you use? Can I use is the question. What measurements can I use? What milestones can I use to track progress towards completion? So a bunch of different ways to do measurable goals there. How will I know when this objective has been achieved? Well, if your goal is to have 2 mentors and you get 2 mentors that you can talk to, you know you've met this goal because you made it very specific in that first part of the SMART goal. On the example for measurable, how will you know if this goal was met? Their answer here is, I will have engaged in at least 2 different discussions by telephone, email, and or text with each person with a general plan for how to optimize and structure the relationship for mutual benefit. And I will gain commitment. So you see the specific goal there was to have 2 and then 1 internal sponsor, and then that measurable piece, you see what they used for the measurement there? It was very specific then when they started talking about it. How many times are they going to engage with somebody? What's going to happen there? And then you're going to have that other part of it, gaining that commitment. Carrie's question earlier today was, how do you know when you've made those connections? You never know until you start to see the feedback and the relationship build. Some people, like Carrie said, he hasn't talked to in 10 years, but can pick up the phone and, an hour feels like 10 minutes. But he may not have thought, oh, do I have a connection with that person enough to be able to do this? He may have just picked up the phone and then that happened. So you never know then. It's a relationship build always, but you want to be open to it. One of the things I found out is that I was a mentor to 2 people I didn't even know I was mentoring. But they were following my career and they were watching me on LinkedIn and they would see me at meetings and they would interact with me and they would ask me questions. I never thought I was mentoring them. I just thought I was sharing, which kind of is the same thing. But they weren't purposeful to come out to me and say, hey, will you mentor me? Then when they told me I've been mentoring them, I said, well, do you want me to actually mentor you? And they said, absolutely, because I appreciate the feedback you give me. It's so honest. Because I'm like, I love those people. I've built a relationship with them. I want them to know, hey, kind of how it is. Carrie's like, I got chocolate on my pants. I'm the one. I'm sorry. Carrie, because you want them to succeed. Okay. Achievable here. Back to this individual development plan. Verify whether you have the resources and the time to do this, and be selective. You know your own schedule, but your schedule life happens, right? So you may get off track and say, okay, I now have to put this on the back burner because something more pressing, like a family matter, has come up. I'm gonna pick it back up, because in the middle of the night, I'm thinking about it, and I'm gonna write something else down, just so that I remember that when I'm able to get back to it, this is what it's gonna look like, and I thought of something I wanna add to it. It says don't pursue too many objectives, because,
Okay, so before this floats out of my mind, I want everyone to be with us, but I think we should do a time management session too.
yes. Time management
And
session.
prioritizing, because, yeah. I just want to put that out there,
Time management session. Where's Kenneth? But I'm gonna write it down.
Got
Wanted.
Time management and setting priorities.
Yep.
The example under achievable then is, how attainable is the goal? And is it within your ability to affect the outcome? Stretch goals are only motivating if they're not too audacious. So here's the goal assessment. My goal is attainable if I'm diligent about reaching out, engaging in meaningful discussions, and putting discrete plans in place, all of which is within my control. Try to find my second page because I know that I had some achievable here. Achievable, those that you can actually accomplish, not an aspiration or a vision. So be realistic about the achievable part here, because again, life happens. Like you can literally write it down, life happens, underline it, and come back and say, yeah, life happened, Gretchen. I didn't finish that SMART goal, but I'm going to continue working on it. Yep.
Okay, so I like this one because I do feel like I do take on too many objectives. So how can you tell when you're taking on too much before you get to that point, like just kind of like knowing ahead of time before, you get in the situation, you're overwhelmed at that point,
So we talk a lot about being on boards of directors. So I've been on several boards of directors, and my counseling to the next person that's going to lead the organization is always do 2 or 3 things well, not many things poorly. right? 2 or 3 things. You're setting goals for life and business, what you're going to do for a job. But you also have life with friends and life with family. And if you try to set like the SMART goal for each one of those things, then something's gonna fall by the wayside. So you just have to be very purposeful about being determined about what your goal is going to be, and then knowing that you might have to have some course corrections in there. 2 or 3 things well, not many things poorly.
Another thing I can say to you is, if you commit to something and you realize that you can't, then be upfront to tell the individuals that you made a commitment to that you're at a point where you can't deliver on that. So many times people will just realize that they can't do it or keep trying to accomplish this when it's not feasible. And then the person realizes they're not delivering and then it's a mess. So to me, I'd say once you realize you can't, and you're getting sick or whatever, because this stuff will get you to be sick. So just be candid with the person and say, like, I'd really love to be there, but I can't, you know?
The next one is relevant. So make sure that your objective is clearly linked to a specific goal. Ask yourself, how will this action help you to get closer to your goal? How will this action help you to get closer to your goal is very important. The example for relevant then is the goal aligned with your values? What's important to you? So remember, you're doing your value statement. You want to make sure that you have that tied to it. So this says, and tied directly to your ability to succeed as a leader, because the original goal is to upscale your network to include 2 external mentors or caliber connections and 1 internal sponsor. The goal assessment for relevant then is developing high quality relationships central to who I am and ultimately will help me become a better leader. Realistic or relevant is how I like to think of the relevant, realistic. Those that you have resources to accomplish. So you need to have the resources available to you, and it looks like this. Do you have the skills? Do you have the funding? Do you have the equipment? And do you have the time? So realistically, how does that work in with your schedule? Y'all have taken on a lot by doing this 10th Institute and going to school and having relationships with family members and friends and possibly having a job. Now you're into your internships. That you got a lot going on right now. So give yourself a break and then set everything down. I find, and it doesn't work for everybody, but I find when I write something down, I can let it go a little bit. It doesn't have to sit on my shoulders. You may find that you want to create a video about it that you can watch later on, or talk to somebody about it, talk it out so you can remember that conversation and get feedback from someone. So there's a variety of different ways of going about doing this. I like writing it down because it makes me more accountable to myself. Onto this relevant area or realistic, as I like to think of it, ask, do I need to rearrange priorities to accomplish this objective? What's important to you? Are you writing SMART goals just because somebody told you you had to write the SMART goals, or are you really writing it for yourself? Are you doing it for yourself? Another question is, how will pursuing this objective affect other performance objectives? So we've got 2 worksheets for you, right? So how will these interplay? Can you accomplish them? You don't want to set yourself up for failure, but sometimes you don't know if you are because you're going to do course corrections along the way. So write it down, get it all out, see what it looks like, and you may see it on paper and then you're like, oh, I don't want to do that at all. Time-bound, time-based. In Agile, we call it time box or boxing, or time boxed, several different ways that you'll hear that wording. Set a date and a time limit. Although it is not always possible to predict how long something will take, it's important to decide when you will reevaluate whether this objective is worth pursuing. Under that time-based or time boxed, the time frame creates a sense of urgency and it leads to action. So if you say, I got a week to do this, and you say, okay, I wrote this all down today, I need a break, and you take a break tomorrow, you now have 5 days to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish, right? Set it in your phone, okay, this is what it looks like. We're gonna talk about Outlook, Microsoft Outlook. Set it in your phone in the Outlook reminder that you wanna hit this objective at a certain time of day. But make sure that you have that time boxing there. If it's 7 days, it's 7 days. If it's 2 hours, it's 2 hours and you're watching your time. If it's 6 months, don't wait until Perry's 5 months, out and now he's got a month left and he knew it was gonna take him 6 months to do something, right? Because he says he likes to procrastinate or it happens. That's why he has all of us say, hey, did you do that? Like he'll tell him, remind me that I'm doing this. So he knows himself well at this point, right? Okay. A complex objective needs to be broken into parts. So if your objective is kind of large and has a lot of interplay in it, make sure you break it down to smaller parts and then set a deadline for each of the phases. So you're making sure that you're covering all of it and you're not missing any of it. The example here for the time frame then, this last one, is over what period of time will you have accomplished this goal? And then the goal assessment, the example they give is within the next 6 months. So that part sounds like the easy part, right? Because you're just putting a timestamp on it. But you've got all the SMAR prior to that happening. So you'll want to make sure that that is all in line. All right, I promised you that I like smarter goals. And smarter goals kind of go along with the agile methodology. So the E and the R for smarter, you can write those in at the bottom there. E is evaluation. You want to make sure that you're looking back at this. Once you've reached the time bound, that time-based section, you're going to make sure that this is your objectives, your goals, or relevant to a bigger picture. In Agile, this is the part then where you would discuss challenges. In our example, we have your mentors and your sponsors. So you would have a conversation about the challenges with yourself. You're thinking about what is blocking me from accomplishing it, or how could I have done it better? And then this is where you get feedback and guidance. Whether Google is your friend, or you have your sponsors, or you have your mentors, or you have your friends and family, or coworkers, colleagues, whoever it is that's helping you be accountable to yourself. This is where you could really have a discussion because you're evaluating what you've accomplished. It's an important part to close out a SMART goal to make sure that you have that done. It's also the most difficult to go back in because you're like, I want to move on, I want to be done with this. But if you don't have this part, this evaluation piece, then going into the next SMART goals, you may do the same mistakes again and have the same blocks in your way. This only makes you better. Then you've got the R, reviewed. So this is where you're recognizing your effort, your collaborations, your milestones, your yay, I did something. You need to celebrate that because it's a lot of work that you've just put into documenting this however you've documented and then accomplishing your goals. So you need to have celebration. If it's a little dance or you go out to dinner with some friends and like, hey, you don't even have to tell them why you're celebrating. So the review part is this. Why am I doing this or why have I done this? Those are the questions you can ask. And this is where you have to know what your values are before you set your next goals. what motivates you and keeps you driving forward? Are there any questions? The forms that you have before you then are your post-academic graduation IEP workshop. Start thinking, look at this form and start thinking about what you want to write down. Because after lunch, you're gonna get together with your coaches, we're gonna float around the room and specify these. Work through it. Again, if you remember anything from the SMART goals, you're going to remember the SMART and what that means. Because today you're learning it and possibly hearing this fresh, but you will probably have a course somewhere along the way, or work for a company that's going to go through this, or have a presentation at some point. This is what you'll remember. If you don't actually use it, you kind of lose it. But again, it's like riding a bike, you'll remember, oh, somebody's gonna talk about SMART goals. Oh, I remember, SMART, that's good, SMART goals, I know how to spell it. What did it mean again? So if you can use it, and that's why you have this exercise, then it sticks with you a little bit better. And if this works for you on setting goals, then you're already, one step forward. When you talk to your mentors, they probably will have heard about SMART or smarter goals, and they can help you with this. Or you can share with them your ideas about your SMART goals and ideas, and they can help to make it more specific. The other one, your post-10th Institute graduation worksheet, what do you want to see in the future? What does that look like for you? You want to start thinking about that because we're getting to the end of this year. Y'all have put in a ton of work. I don't know if you understand how much work you guys have put in. If we had employees, I am so proud of you for the work that you've put into it. You've got the E-League, you're looking at getting the Agile badge. For those of you who have used the IBM, I went in there and then I told my HR friend who is at IBM in Baton Rouge, and he was like, oh, and I have these 5 other courses I want you to check out and give me some feedback on because we just rolled it out. And created more work for myself. Yay, go me. But he's so excited about what they've created over there. And when I went through the Agile, I got my badge. I think it took me 6 or 7 hours to kind of go through the whole thing, but they warned me it should take about 8 hours. So when you go through that, I was like, ooh, this is kind of fun because it's gamification, right? They've made a game out of some of it. And I'm like, ooh, I dig it. Let's go in, pick these. Did I pass? Did I get to phone a friend? So going through getting the badge and then being able to put it on my LinkedIn profile, that's how he saw it because I'm connected to him on there. So you never know when you have built the relationship, right? So he came back and was like, I see that you got this. I'm so proud of you. And by the way, can you take these 5 other classes? Okay. On your form, think about your vision here. Overall vision. You got goal number 1, goal number 2, goal number 3. You're creating that objective. What are the actions and what are the due dates? So you can kind of see how it broke it down. Use this form, but as we were going through this, you may have thought already it looks different to you. And that's okay. However, it gets you through SMART goals. So remember, it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, or realistic, time-bound, time-based, time-boxed. And then we have the evaluation, and then a review. And kind of remember what those look like. Any other questions? All right, take a few minutes. My alarm's going to go off in 5 minutes, so take those 5 minutes to look over this and start to develop that. Once this alarm goes off, we're going to go to lunch until, what time do we have lunch? Till noon. And then we'll come back, and for 45 minutes, you're going to specify what this looks like and build it out. And then the coaches will go around and kind of help you with that and see how you're working on it. So take these 5 minutes to kind of look through and start thinking about your goal setting.
When do we consider like post-10 Institute? Is that like end of this year?
Well, like I said this morning, I mean, I don't consider there's post. You know, we have an alumni program. So as you become, you know, graduated from college, we have another entity where we're thinking to keep the group together. And if you want coaching and mentoring and counseling from a career perspective, there'll be a group of people here that will continue to work with you. So we see that you join the program and you continue to be in the program. And as I talked about, as even as an alumni, to help come back and work with freshmen and sophomores and the classes that are coming behind you. So I don't necessarily think about a when is it over period of time. I think it's you're moving to different phases in your career. How do we stay attached to really help you, you know, where you are, whatever stage you're at, right? Because even in this room, this is the first year. Some people are seniors, some people are juniors, sophomores. All right, so everybody's at a different path, if you will. So the other thing that I wanted just to say to you about your goals and stuff is for the program, we want to focus on either like, I am graduating, I need, the most important thing for me in the next 6 to 9 months is finding a job. I'm going into my last year. My goals are really to kind of dig into my core curriculum for my degree and maybe have another internship or maybe start to look for full-time gigs. Right? So that's where your coach and the mentor in this program can help you, you know, with those pieces as you think about what your goals should be. It's either about getting an internship, another one, maintaining experience, getting more work experience, or I'm graduated. What does that transition look like? Right? So, so everybody's working on what? So they got 5 minutes to.
They're actually just kind of reviewing the documentation and thinking about what they're gonna put after lunch.
Okay, and lunch is here, so we're gonna do that. So Ms. Sheila, welcome.
Hi, we miss you. We miss you.
Oh.
I appreciate it. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a lot.
So Ms., and we have a few people, can you put them up? Few people on in Zoom.
Hello.
Oh, I guess you can see it, the camera can see it.
Hi.
Charlotte's in Houston. Cute. Ms. Parker is somewhere in New Orleans.
Hey.
Sydney's there.
What do you want everybody?
So you're doing your icebreaker, yes?
Okay, so I'm supposed to do my icebreaker. And so, my name is Sheila. The song that always gets stuck in my head is Pharrell, the Happy song. And then like recently it's the Running Out My Track Star song, and that's stuck in my head too. The title of my autobiography would be If Only You Knew, But Let Me Tell You. That would be the name of my autobiography. It's a lot. Whew. And if I could instantly learn another language without studying it, it would be French. Because I feel like I could put the necessary accents where they should go, and I probably wouldn't say the word right, but it would sound really good. So, that's my icebreaker. Thank you so much for sharing.
All right. So we have a few more things coming for lunch, but the sent boxes have names on them. So if you remember your name, you can pick up your lunch.
1, 2, 3, break.
Yes, ma'am.
Your name Juan? You like turkey? De nada. Who's coming up? Who's coming up? We're gonna get the BCO first. There you are, sir.